Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
Hello, good evening. Remember me? I'm Dave. I used to do this show a month ago. It's when is it? It's the 26th of August, so it's 4 weeks since I last did a show, a Dave's Tackle Box, but I'm back. You can't get rid of me that easily. I just want to start the show by saying a huge thank you to Dugie, who did a couple of shows while I was, suffering on a nice hot island, drinking free beer. He manfully struggled on and put out what I thought were a couple of great shows. I only saw them when I got back, but he did a cracking job, and I'm sure you'll all agree with me. So huge thank you to Dugie. So I'm sort of refreshed, recharged the batteries, as they say, still running around like the proverbial blue arse flynoid. It's been quite busy, really. It's been quite busy, but I had a great holiday. But since I got back, as I say, I've been rushing around a little bit because I don't know whether you're aware, but there was a little sort of party yesterday, just down the road from here in Tamworth, and you know me, I'm talking about Vapefest 2012. I took my camera, annoyed a few people by shoving it in their faces, and there will be some kind of 10 or 15 minute sort of highlights of that coming along in due course, but that's going to take some editing. But just as a little teaser, in fact, here on my screen it's called Vapefest 2012 teaser. Here's a little taster of what was going on in Tamworth yesterday. And there you go. As I say, that's just a little taster of things to come when I get the chance to edit it all. Typically, I took my camera along yesterday, and I was travelling pretty light actually, so I made do with the mic that I got with me and everything, and I recorded some interviews and stuff and I had a quick sort of flick through it this morning, and half the audio's no good, so I'm going to try and clean that up and get what I can, but there's still going to be a ton of good stuff left, so it should be well worth a watch, and I'm going to try and get that done for next week, but we'll have to see how that pans out. But on Vapefest itself, the subject of Vapefest, so I noticed on the UK Vapors forum earlier, and I've been out for most of the day, so I haven't had a chance to look all across the interweb. But it's kind of interesting, really. There were over 900 people present yesterday during the course of the day. I was talking to Wayne sort of as the evening approached. Over 900 people. So we think that makes it the biggest vape meet in the world ever. And for it to run as well as it did, even the weather cooperated, you know. It could have been a lot worse given the weather forecasts. It was just a fantastic experience. As with all of these meets, you've got friendships that sort of finish when you leave and start again at the next meet. And of course, at 900 people, that's like more than double what we had last year even. So there are lots of new people, some people you recognise from the forums and their YouTube reviews, and some people who, as I say, have become old friends. It's a fantastic experience. But I noticed on the forums earlier that there were some people who'd gone along and it didn't meet their expectations. And there's been a bit of criticism of the comments that they've posted, and you know, I'm not so sensitive. I thought that was a great vape meet, you know, but it's just, I guess it's inevitable, really. When you're catering for, I can say it, can't I, nearly 1,000 people at a meet like this, the chances of everybody having a fantastic day and meeting 1,000 people's expectations is pretty slim. So my message to the organisers, it's Wayne and Fiona and Scott and everybody else that put all the effort into that, and I've always said with these vape meets as well, you have the organising committee, but the people that make the meet a success or not are the vaping community, the numbers that turn up. So to those 1,000 people who turned up, I say, don't be disheartened by a little bit of constructive criticism, or even some negative sort of criticism. Don't be disheartened. The vast majority there yesterday had a wonderful time, including me. Keep up the good work. Where you go from here, I don't know. I suspect the NEC. Maybe Earl's Court. Do they still hire that out? But it's just fantastic. So, you know. So, yah boo to the naysayers. That's what I say. It was great fun. So, there you go. Now, one of the reasons that I say it met my expectations is I had a very firm idea of what I wanted from it. One included drinking copious amounts of alcohol, which I successfully achieved. One of them was to catch up with people and meet new people, which I achieved. Another one was to pick up some bits and bobs, preferably things I hadn't seen before that the vendors have got with them, and I'll show you some of that stuff that I brought back in a minute. But my main objective for going to Vapefest, as in previous years, is to win the raffle. Now, yesterday I had to kind of duck out for a few hours during the game because it was Aston Villa's first home game of the season. So I actually left, went to the match and came back, and I trusted somebody with my raffle tickets, Dugie. It was Dugie. I know if you're watching this live, you'll see in chat there that he's already confessed that it was his fault. But I left him looking after the tickets. I won squat. So I've demanded a recount, but I haven't had a reply to that yet. But, you know, that's the last time I trust him with the raffle tickets anyway. So he didn't win anything himself, which makes me feel a little bit better. But let me be honest, you know, that I'm sulking about that. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. But I bought a bunch of stuff. And if I just switch to this camera angle here, you can see some of this stuff. I'll start with this thing. These are things that are going to feature in Dave's tackle box in the weeks to come. I'm sure of that. This thing here I didn't actually get from Vapefest. This is This is the Ego Customizer rebuildable atomizer from Healthy Vape, which I know Dugie reviewed, but I ordered this before I even knew he was getting one. So I ordered this. So I might be tapping him up for a few tips on this. As you can see, I haven't even opened the packet yet on that. So that's coming up. But the rest of this stuff came from Vapefest yesterday. I got this thing here. This is called Bosk mod. And it's, I'm not sure what type of wood that is, but I'm going to find out before I do a proper look and review at it. But that's an 18650 wooden mod. What an unusual shape. It feels really good, actually. But I've not even put a battery in it yet. I just haven't had time. But we'll be having a proper look at that maybe next week or the week after or something like that. That's good, isn't it? I bought some of my big mega DCC Cartos that I seem to get through a lot of. I got this stuff, and I'm really going through this kind of live, actually, some of this, because I was just buying stuff and chucking it in my bag. This was given to me by Vapor Store, and I know Dougie got one of these as well, and this is like the mini version of the VV Nova tank. So we're going to be having a look at those, myself and Dougie, and do one of our now infamous double-headed reviews. So that'll be coming up in the next week or two. I was given this bottle of liquid. Now I was offered liquid to review by a number of people yesterday, and I very politely declined and pushed them Dougie's way, because Dougie's a much better juice reviewer than I am. Because my juice reviews, you know, I know my limitations. It's either alright or it's rubbish, you know, and I'm not really sure that really gives anything to the community if I'm reviewing something for you and think, yeah, that's all right, or it's rubbish. So, but I did end up with this stuff. This is called Rube Tube. Rube, not rude. And I've got a little card here with this guy vaping away. So I shall have a look at that juice, because I did promise the guys faithfully that I would review that. One of the only thing that I've used so far that I brought back is the thing on the end of this silver bullet. And this is called a unique tank, and I shall be talking about that in the very near future, because they're called unique tanks because the guy that makes them, he turns these from a solid block of Delrin, so every single one's different, and he's getting quite good. Look at that, with making the patterns. And I thought it's kind of you know, it's a Carto tank, but the top section is like a one-piece tip and top. So I think it looks a little bit like those lava tanks that were around. So it's rather good. I quite like this. Yeah, so that's good. That came from, as I say, Unique Tanks and Carto covers. He did these Carto covers. Ashdog is the guy's forum name. I know he's on UK Vapors. I'm sure he may very well be on other forums. Ian, who makes the Touchwood, gave me some replacement springs and the new design centre post for my Touchwood. So I'll be dropping that in at some point and seeing how that goes. I haven't got a problem with the current one, but he says this is a slightly better design, so I'll go with that. What else have we got in here? Oh yes, from Kerf Harness. I got this from Vapist Vaporizers, I think it was. This is the Provari version of the Trap Tank. Now, if you remember a while ago, and I know it's on my desk here somewhere, I've got the Triple-itis steel version of that. It's buried under various rubbish by the looks of things. I'll find that sometime. This one's styled to go with the Provari. As you can see, it's a very good match. I'm not sure how well that camera picks that up, but I shall be firing that up. It's like the Trap Tank design, where you fill it through the top so you don't have to remove the top and your tip to do it. So we'll be having a look at that. And that came with like a little bunch of spares and stuff. So we'll go through that properly at some point. And then in here, this is a steam machine. I've gone rebuildable mad. I got this one, and I got this one. And I know precious little about this. I've read a little bit about it on the forums, so we're probably going to have a bit of a laugh as I try this one out. But what drew me to this one is the way that you can use a tank or use the filler inside. So we're going to have some rebuildable fun in the weeks to come. I've no idea what else is in here. Well, that's a tank and a drip tip and stuff. We'll go through it properly when we've got time. So as you can see, I parted with a fair amount of money as usual, not least of all on alcohol, but at least I brought some stuff back with me that I can keep. But one thing I wanted to make just before we move on and get this show started, oh, look at this, I've got all this wick and wire and stuff that I don't know what to do with. But I wanted to make mention of these. There's two publications here I picked up. Now these are the first sort of vaping publications that I've come across, and I picked them both up yesterday. I'm going to deal with this one first. This is Camvip's Vapors in Ale, issue number 1, autumn 2012. Let's get that where the camera can see it. This obviously has been put together by the Campaign for Vaping in Pubs, Camvip, and it is a fantastic publication. There's just endless information on what the campaign's about. There's interviews with landlords, plenty of ads. It's been well supported by some vendors that I recognise. Some people I recognise as well. I saw Marky D in there, obviously Rusty's in there. This is a great publication. Now, had I had a little bit more time today, I'd have found out where you can go and subscribe to this. But I'm betting that if you visit the Camvip website, or even the Camvip forum on ukvapors.org, I bet there's information there already. It's got information on some of the events that they've been involved with, like World Vaping Day and the e-tobacconist initiative. Just fantastic publication. And so I'd just like to say well done to the guys that produced this. I know Rusty was heavily involved, but I'm sure some other people were involved as well. Well done. It is really worth a read. I think there's an online version of it, if I remember rightly. Rusty's in chat there. He'll straighten me out if it's wrong. The other publication that I picked up as well, and this is Viva Vaping. Now, there is a website on the way, I believe, called vivavaping.com. In fact, it's mentioned on the bottom there. But I checked it a little bit earlier. It's not online yet, so that's coming soon. But this publication has mostly been put together by Scott, aka e-cig. So I know e-cig through the UK Vapors forum. e-cig is a very well-known character online, and I know he's organised numerous meets around the Hull area. And it's a high quality publication. Interviews with lots of people that I know either online or through the vape meets. It's a great read. It's a great read. And that again is issue number 1, launched at Vapefest yesterday. So again, UK Vapors forum or vivavaping.com when that comes online, and I'm sure e-cig will let me know when the website is to be launched, and I'll certainly mention it on here. It's a cracking publication, and apart from one bit, there's some clown called the Happy Vapor has done a write up here. So they probably need to sort of up the ante a bit as far as their interviewees and contributors are concerned. But no, I mean, this is great to see. I mean, this is tangible stuff. There were guys I met at the vape meet yesterday, and they were there because maybe they're occasional internet users, but they're certainly not forum regulars or anything like that. And I pointed them to both these publications because, not everybody spends all their waking hours on vape forums or even watching Vapors Trails TV. So the people I spoke to yesterday, I also gave them a VTTV card, as you do. But these are good publications. That's vivavaping.com and the Campaign for Vaping in Pubs, Camvip. Check those out. They're well worth a read. They're not just like pamphlets full of ads. There's good stuff in there. So get along and see them. Right, I'm going to be taking a look at the Totally Wicked Odyssey very shortly. Before that, we're going to take a short break. Back in 2.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tap Box.
Do you want your cash to scratch a little bit further? Do you want a safer cig? Then you need Safer Cigs, a proud sponsor of vaportrails.tv. Go to www.safercigs.co.uk, stretchy man not included.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tap Box.
This is the Totally Wicked Odyssey mod. It's a 14500 mod. And this is some stuff I filmed about it. Enjoy. Hi, I'm Dave. What you just saw was an attempt I made a couple of months ago now to film a review of the Totally Wicked Odyssey e-cigarette mod. That's all that remains of that review, because partway through it packed up on me. Now, I was aware when I bought it at that point that there was a risk, there was a known problem, and I knew there was a risk that it might fail on me. But I'd used it for a couple of days, it seemed good, and then as I was filming the review, the fault that everybody told me about appeared, and that was that. Now, like I say, that was 2 months ago, and partly well, almost totally, because I've been on holiday and stuff like that. It's only now that I've got all the parts together so I can have another go. When I ordered it, this was one of the original batch. I think it's been withdrawn from sale now, that batch. And it did come with a letter explaining that the upper battery housing, which I'll show you in a moment, had a fault, and that if that fault should appear with my device, then they would send me free of charge a replacement, and then when the newer modified version of that upper battery housing was available, they'd send you that free of charge as well. Now, as I say, I've been on holiday, I've been away working. For what I was slow reporting the fact that it was damaged. There's no criticism of Totally Wicked at all here. I was pre-warned, I was slow taking them up on their offer of the replacement. That's why it's taken so long to get this review to air. It's down to me. Funnily enough, by the time I did actually report the fact that the upper battery housing had broken, and they sent me a replacement within a day, and I actually got home and found both envelopes. I've also got the Mark II one waiting for me as well. I've not had a look at them yet, but I thought what we'll do is have a look at the device, and I'll show you the fault that it had and what they've done to fix it. Right, let's have a quick look at what they send you. Now, in addition to the problem with the upper battery housing, as they've called it, and I'll show you that in a second, they also had a problem with the charger that they originally were going to ship with it. So they're sending you the Trustfire TR001, or at least they did with me. It is mentioned in the letter that they sent with it. Perfectly good charger. Mine's still in the box because I've got several of these now, and I've got a charger that I use. Takes 14500 batteries, which are nicely branded for Totally Wicked, if we can get that to focus. You get a couple of DCT cartomizers. I've used one, like I say, a couple of months ago. That had gone a bit soggy and horrid by now, so I've chucked that and we're going to start a scratch with the new one. Look at the actual device itself. There it is. You also get this thing they call a plinth. That will become, the purpose of which will become apparent. A nice drip tip that's styled to go with the rest of the device. You get this thing, which is, they call it the DCT filler, and that is for filling the DCT. And then you get the tank, the DCT, the dual coil tank itself, into which your cartomizer fits. It comes with a really good instruction book. As good as I've ever seen, with pictures showing you what to do and also what not to do. It's basically excellent. But pretty much this book will get you there. It really is an excellent guide on how to fill it, the do's and don'ts of using it, and even the philosophy behind it. Best instruction manual I've probably ever read. Warranty card, it's warranted for 5 years, and that's the terms of the guarantee, which I haven't read. So let's start with the problem that they warned everybody about and that this one eventually developed. This is the battery housing and the upper battery housing, and it's this part that caused me the problem. It basically looks like an ego type fitting, which we're all accustomed to seeing, and you can see in the center of there's a sort of almost brass colored pin which is supposed to make contact with the cartomizer, and that's how the power gets to the cartomizer. That should be soldered in place. This is that pin now. You can see that the solder joint has broken. That's why it don't work. So as I say, I eventually, when I got round to it, reported this to Totally Wicked, and they made good on their promise to send me a replacement of the original. But because I'd been away, by the time I got home, they'd actually also sent me the newer, better
more sturdy version. So this is the one that will be shipped if you buy the Odyssey now. It looks physically quite different. It actually feels quite a bit heavier as well. But what the centre pin in there looks a little bit more solid. The other obvious difference is that it's a gold colour instead of a silver colour, the actual thread. But hopefully this one's going to do the job for me. So to get the device itself ready, not exactly rocket science. You drop the battery in, you put the upper battery housing onto the lower battery housing, and you fire it by pressing this button on the bottom. Now you can also lock this button so it doesn't fire accidentally when you put it in your pocket, just by turning it, and you'll hear there's an audible click as it locks, and that's pretty solid. And you got the little devil logo on the bottom. But that's the device itself. Now that's basically a 510 fitting. It will take any Ego compatible cartomizer, as you can see, so I can just use it like that if I want. And that works splendidly. The tank that they supply in the Odyssey kit is basically a DCT, a dual coil cartomizer tank. Now what the Odyssey DCT does is it introduces the concept of this thing, which is a filler, and it's just designed basically just to make the whole process a little bit neater. The instructions here show you exactly what you need to do, but I'm going to summarise. But I do recommend that you read the instructions because there's good tips and advice in there. So it says to insert the cartomizer into the tank. It's quite obvious which is the bottom of the tank and which is the top. You want the flanged end of the cartomizer to the bottom, so you put the top bit in first. And taking care that you don't damage the O-rings inside the tank itself. Don't force anything too hard. Maybe give it a little slight turn just to get it home. And you'll see that once it's in place, it should sort of almost click into place. The tank is shaped for the squared edge of the flange to fit in. It should fit very snugly like that. Now I'm going to remove the little silicone cap that was on the cartomizer because we just don't need that anymore. And that's ready to fill. So I'm going to put this little plinth on, and the purpose of the plinth is to cover up the Ego threads, because if you just put your tank onto the Ego fitting like that, it looks a bit odd. So the purpose of the plinth is you just pop that on there like that, if it will of course go on, yeah. And then when you attach your tank, it looks a bit more joined up. And that's where this filler comes in. So basically you insert that into the cartomizer with a slight twist if you need to, till that's just like pushed in. And then what I can do is slide the tank up, just holding the filler in place with my thumb. I can slide the tank up, and that's basically opened up enough of a gap internally so I can fill the tank through here, which is pretty neat really. So I'm going to do that. So the instructions recommend that you hold the whole device at a 45-degree angle, thus, and fill the cartomizer almost to the top of the little sight window. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go a little bit below the top there just to make sure it isn't overfilled. Try and do that at an angle where the camera can see it a bit better. Then what I can do is I can slide the tank back down onto the cartomizer. Just make sure it lines up properly. And remove the filler. Like that. Now, because this is a new cartomizer, there's one more thing I need to do, and that is prime the cartomizer, which is also mentioned in the instructions. And it recommends putting 30 to 40 drops directly into the cartomizer, just to make sure that the filler material inside the cartomizer is wet. Okay, so my tank is filled. I've primed the cartomizer because it's the first time I've used it. All I need to do now is insert the drip tip. Just give it a little test fire. I can hear that sizzling. And that is the Odyssey with the DCT ready to rock. As you can see, it works. Now, obviously, it's not going to perform much differently to any other 14500 battery mod with that cartomizer on it. So there's not really a huge amount that I need to comment on the performance. It is a perfectly good 14500 mod with a DCT setup on the top. That's what it is. What I do like about this though, and what I do think is worthy of comment, is the philosophy behind it. I mentioned this earlier. There's some notes in the back of this user manual which I'm not going to read out in full, but it explains that totally wicked. Traditionally, just like all electronic cigarette sellers, have sold in the main Chinese produced equipment, and whilst the cartomizer, and I assume the battery, and that is my assumption, are of Chinese origin, I understand that the rest of this has been made in the UK, and I like that. There is one real innovation there, and that's the filler, the method of filling the cartomizer that I just showed you, or filling the tank that I just showed you. And I think that's a good idea. It makes the process a little bit neater and a little bit easier. But on the whole, what we've got here is nothing new, except that where possible it's been sourced in the UK, and I think that's a great thing, to be honest with you. We have some fantastic mod makers in the UK, but when it comes to the mass market, this is pretty much it. Ergonomically, I like it, actually. If I compare it to something like my Pure Smoker Icon, it's very similar to use. Button's a bit stiffer, and there's no way currently of being able to adjust the throw on the button. But that's a minor gripe. You know, it's not like it breaks your finger or anything to use it. You've got the option of squeezing it in your hand to fire it like that. I think aesthetically, the whole setup looks really good. You know, they've put some thought into this with the styling. You've got these kind of little notches in the button and on the plinth, as they call it, the collar here, and even on the drip tip to give it a sort of joined up sort of effect. You've got the window in the tank to see when your juice level's running low and you need a top up, and it just sort of works. From a personal point of view, I'd like to see the follow-up to this. I'd like to see a device that uses non-dual coil cartomizers. I don't use the DCT, and there's a reason for that. I prefer just standard or low resistance cartomizers. And kind of following on from that, it'd be nice to see a bigger battery version of this. It strikes me that it wouldn't be, without adding too much to the physical size of the device, you could probably get yourself up to a 17670 battery, and it'd be nice to see an 18650 version with room for a kick, or an 18650 version that'll take an 18490 battery and a kick, so you've got that variable voltage, variable wattage option as well. So I'm not sure that the DCT, the dual coil cartomizer part of this setup was the best way to go, though I do understand why they've done it with the shaped base and the cartomizer being readily available. But I have to say that despite the teething troubles and having to get the replacement parts, the customer service on that was absolutely first class. It was a minor inconvenience, complicated only by the fact that I was slow in telling them about the problem, and I've now got the permanent Mark II replacement. I think I'm going to use this device a fair bit, but if I'm honest, I'm probably going to use it without this tank. This is a VV Nova on top of it. As you can see, I'm getting more vapor from that, although this has a higher content of VG in the liquid. But that to me is a more acceptable vape, but that's a personal preference thing, and I have the option of doing it. I can use the dual coil cartomizers, the mega ones that I'm so fond of. So I think I'm probably going to be using this device quite a lot, is the reality. I have to commend Totally Wicked. I think they've done an excellent job. I really appreciate the philosophy behind it. It brings the sort of mods that many of us use every day. They've branded it beautifully. They've packaged it very nicely. If you want to use the tank, the filler is a great innovation. I think it really does make it a lot less messy to fill your tank. And I've still got the flexibility to use any 510 device that I want, or Ego 510 fitting as well. So that's my take on the Totally Wicked Odyssey. I think the package price was 80 quid. I think it's that long. I did have a quick look for the invoice and I couldn't find it, but I'm pretty sure it was $79.95 plus postage from totallywicked.co.uk. That's where I got mine. I'm sure you can get them from .com as well, and all the other sites they've got. This is a great start. Can't wait to see what they come up with next. I'm Dave, and thanks for watching.
That's the Totally Wicked Odyssey. Now, I've got to mention, I was asked a couple of times yesterday, because I was carrying that thing around Vapefest yesterday. A couple of people asked me how I, as a moderator of UK Vapors, could use a TW product. And my answer's ever so simple. You're either unbiased and impartial in your reviews, or you're not. Dead simple. End of part 2. See you in 2 minutes with Dougie.
Sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
The GG. Because you want one. iVapor and iVapor Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's ivapor.co.uk and ivapor-elixir.co.uk. iVapor and ivapor-elixir.co.uk, proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv.
sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
And welcome back. And look who it is. Is it that side? No, it's that side. It's Dougie. Hi,
The full version, the full-size Dougie.
Full-size Dougie, amplified. What's the magnification set to on this camera?
Times 20.
Yeah, something like that. It's not very often. It's not very often that I meet somebody and feel tall. So it really was, without a word of a lie, a pleasure to meet you yesterday, mate.
It was a pleasure to meet you, Dave, as well.
Yeah, well, it was. It's always bizarre, I find, when you meet somebody for the first time, when you've been conversing with them through forums or using Skype, and so you know what each other look like and everything. There's none of that. I wonder if that's him, because people are instantly recognisable, aren't they? And it's kind of meeting for the first time, but not. But anyway, yesterday was your first vape meet, wasn't it?
It was.
And your first vape meet was the biggest one in the world ever.
So, I believe, yeah. Like what you're saying. I read some of the forums before where there was estimating about 800 to 900 people.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a good thing to be involved with, isn't it? The biggest vape meet.
Not bad.
Loved it.
What did you think? Yeah, you just said that you loved it. I mean,
yeah,
describe
an
it.
Experience.
Describe it, because I kind of was at the first Vapefest and there were 50 or 60 of us, and then last year there were a few hundred of us, and this year it was bigger still. So I've seen this, and I've had the mini meets in the middle. So each vape meet I've gone to, certainly the ones in Tamworth, has got progressively bigger. So I kind of expected it to be the way it was yesterday. But how did you find it? I mean, sum up the day.
Well, I'll start with the Friday, because I went down on the Friday because I wanted to make a weekend of it, and I knew, obviously, through reading forums, there was a lot of other people going down on the Fridays. So we had like a pre-Vapefest warm-up, and we all ended up in the Tamworth Arms on the Friday. And to me, when we was in that pub and everyone was there with all the devices, and it was misty inside, there was just banter, laughter, and it just reminded me of the good old days being in a pub enjoying yourself. And everybody on that night, on the Friday, just happy. Everybody was just happy to talk to everybody, and everything was getting passed around. And that continued till we left the pub at about 1 a.m.
Right.
And then again on Saturday, it just continued. Everybody was just so friendly. Coming up, introducing themselves, saying hello, passing the gear around, and it was just a weird feeling. There was people leaving things on tables.
Yeah.
There was so much money in gear lying around, and nobody was worried about leaving it.
Yeah, yeah.
They just get up, walk away, just say, "Can you just keep your eye on it?" type of thing, and help yourself. Try anything you want, and they just wander off. So trusting, great bunch of people. I thought I met so many people this weekend.
It's crazy, isn't
it?
It's
fantastic. I didn't want it to end.
and
did not want it to end.
Because, people will recognise you from your videos and things like that. And, of course, and I think you commented to me at one point yesterday, people know you.
Yeah.
And so, but, people will come and say hi, and you're thinking, should I know you? Should I know you? You've got that thought going through you.
Yeah, I felt, they come over and they say, "Hi, Dougie, I've seen your videos." And I wouldn't say I feel guilty. It was like, it felt a little bit awkward saying, "Sorry, who are you?" But to be expected, I don't know the face, but that was weird. That was a weird feeling.
It's weird, but brilliant, isn't it? It's there's a lot of people who say it isn't a real community in the dictionary sense of the word, but
well,
I think it is.
To me,
I think if you get along to there,
going off yesterday,
the better part of 1,000 people, all with the same purpose.
Yeah.
on the day, and it's an icebreaker. I was reading comments from a couple of comments actually on UK Vapors earlier, where a few people thought that it didn't meet expectation, and they were a little bit disappointed in some aspects, which is fair enough, I saw a comment that people felt that it was a little bit sort of cliquey and they didn't feel they could approach people. But I've got to say, I've got a big gob. I stick my face on the internet. I'm not a shrinking violet. Okay, but I have to say I've never ever felt intimidated approaching anybody at one of these meets. I'll bound up and talk to anybody, mate, and nobody's told me to piss off yet.
Yeah.
Well, not to my face, anyway.
I read that that post that you're on about, and I'm not sure if he was aiming that comment in a certain direction, but I don't agree with him.
No, it's just not been my experience. I mean, like I say, I've got nothing against the guy that made that post or the content of that post. I mean, after all, your personal opinion is your personal opinion, and he felt moved to share it, and I respect that. But I have to say, it's just not my experience or the experience of anybody that I've spoken to. Most people come out of their first vape, mate, absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, and I was one of them.
Yeah, well, exactly. You day to day, you don't meet that many people who share our hobby.
To be honest,
and then so to spend a whole day in the company of people where using something like a silver bullet is actually a bit boring. It's.
But what I liked about it was there were so many people in one place. I never saw one person causing a fuss. I never saw anybody frowning or walking around. All I saw was happy people just enjoying. Everybody was enjoying themselves.
That's what it looked like to me.
There was loads of people I never got to speak to.
Yeah. Well, there were 1,000 of them,
which I can do next time.
Some of them might not have wanted to speak to you.
Some of the people again that I met this weekend, but no, I absolutely loved it. It was an experience, and I won't forget that.
All right,
definitely an experience.
Let's cut to the quick, okay? What was your highlight of the day, or days, as you arrived on Friday?
I couldn't say I'd pick one out. I'd just say everything about it. I enjoyed everything.
Cool.
Even just sitting at a table and yapping.
And I also have to ask you, because this is subject dear to my heart, how did you screw up the raffle? I mean, like, I'm a cast iron, nailed on winner of that raffle.
Well,
did you insult the organisers or what?
No, well, you did actually win. It got mentioned in chat. I don't know if you picked it up before. You did win twice, but I just told them to redraw.
Yeah. I suspected as much, I just couldn't prove it.
I think, yeah. No, I'm rubbish at raffles, so you was very brave for leaving.
I've got to be honest, they're the only raffles I've ever won in my life. But
if I have got one gripe about the day, it would be to do with the raffle. Not with the way it was done, but the way it seemed to be. Some people turned up just for that and then disappeared.
Yeah, okay, no, I understand.
That's the only thing I didn't like about it. And I think there was a few comments saying the packages that they put together were too big. They could have thinned them out a bit, but...
Is that right? I as you know, I missed that.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't there for the raffle. I was there for the social.
In defence of the way that was done, because I've seen a couple of comments from people saying, they could have perhaps made a few more prizes rather than bundling so much up. In defence, I did the raffle obviously at the Midland Mini Meet earlier this year, which was tiny by comparison in the number of stuff we got, but we could have been there for hours. We really could have been there for hours. I think it, just doing the draw lasted half an hour on my little mini meet. So I've got some sympathy there, but I have to hear what everybody's saying. And, a few people have commented on that. On the subject of people waiting for the raffle and then going, I think that tends to be the way it is. It's just the way it is.
It just seemed to get empty. So, maybe I just read that a little bit wrong, but it just felt like that. Like you hadn't seen quite. I mean, there were so many people there, you can't necessarily pick out faces, but there was just so many people there, and then it just thinned out. But,
It was just the diehards, wasn't it, at the end? I think a lot of people went off to the Tamworth Arms, didn't they, before the end of the night?
They did. I think myself, John Bonbon, Liam, quite a few of the lads that are in chat, and we were the last kicked out of the moat house.
Well, I left at 12:30, and there were still plenty of people in the moat house at that point.
Yeah, you did a little bit of a boogie on us, didn't you, Dave?
I did.
You,
I had to go.
Made your excuses and left.
I was so tired, and I'd had to suffer that football match halfway through the day as well, so let that be my defence. But okay, so Vapefest then. So thumbs up from you.
Yeah, and I think, the whole social side of it, which is the main thing, it was spot on. Everybody I met, everybody I talked to, great to meet you, and I can't wait for the next one.
One guy that I did meet yesterday, and it was a pleasure to meet. Everybody I met, it was a pleasure to meet. But one guy who stands out particularly was Shane, who is organising Vapefest Ireland.
Yes.
So
yes.
A little plug for Shane's Vapefest Ireland. That's on the 15th of September. Do you know what? I think I may still have the lower third for that. Yeah, I do. Here we go. I'm just going to flash something up on the screen here. Vapefestireland.weebly.com is where you can get the details of it. It's the 15th of September in Abbeyleix, which is, as it was described to me, right in the middle of Ireland. I'm going. You're not going to be able to make it this time, unfortunately, but I believe Dave Dawn's going as well. A bunch of people that were at the UK version yesterday will be there. So if you fancy that, anybody that's watching, it's going to be a little bit more of the same, I think. So I'm looking forward to that one. What other meets we've got? We're looking at organising a knees up. That's North East e-smokers somewhere in the northeast in October. So keep an eye on the forums for the dates of that one.
Hopefully not the first week, because my wife's away.
Right.
Needs not the first. I'm saying that as a hint to Daz.
Is it Daz that's organising it?
I think Daz is sorting the venue.
Righto. So we might have to twist his arm a bit then, we'll...
Second week or
So what? Right, we've got about a minute or so left, I would think, before we have to start winding this up. What did you come away with yesterday?
Apart from stocking up on my juices and getting my mum's shopping list, I only bought one thing for myself, and that was at about 12:15 at night, if I remember correctly. Was it something like that, Dave? And I got myself some wood. The little Touchwood Mini.
Oh, yes. Yes, quite late in the day, as I recall.
It was about 12:15 at night. Ian walked past me and I just grabbed him and said, "Have you got him in your car close by?" He said, "I have." So he came back and, I got me some wood.
Fair enough. And what are you thinking of that?
That was the only big purchase. The rest was just stocking up on juices.
And what are you thinking of it so far?
Yeah, I'm liking it.
It is rather good.
Just trying to get it right with dripping, because it can be messy and I don't want to destroy it as I'm doing now. I'm wiping up.
Right.
Finger marks.
We've got to be close to time here. So I almost forgot to say thank you for filling in while I was sunning it. But you don't get a tan like this without a few sacrifices. And I've since I got back, I've watched the podcast versions actually of the show. Don't forget, this will be available on iTunes, vaportrails.tv, by tomorrow. So thank you for that. I think we've definitely hit time. So Doug, where's my credits? There we go. There they are. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you yesterday. I'm glad you had as good a time as I did. Say good night, Dougie.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.
See you later.